Please kill me. I just filmed this entire video without hitting record. So yeah, that's that. Welcome to what I read in January of 2024. I'm going to show you everything I finished this month. And I'm also going to show you everything that I bought this month, which I'm so excited about. So yeah, I already filmed this, which is great because now I at least know what I want to tell you. The first book of 2024 for me was a book that I'm actually very glad to have read, just because I already had it on my TBR for like a good 1.5 years, and I don't really like keeping books unread that long on my shelf. So I'm so glad to finally have read The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. This book, I don't know if you can see it, but this book looks so beaten up. Please don't blur. Because I have taken it with me so many places, always being like, oh my god, I'm finally gonna get to read The Hobbit. And then I didn't, except I did. If you know me as a reader, you will know that I am not a fantasy girly. Never have been, probably never will be. And this is a pretty classic high fantasy story. People would argue that it's the classic high fantasy story. It is The Hobbit, after all. Either way, I don't care much for fantasy, which obviously projected onto this book. I do have to say I found the world incredibly charming. Like, I really enjoyed the world building of this story. And I enjoyed how straightforward the plot was. Like, they went there, they had a little bit of conflict, and then he went back. It is exactly what you'd expect from the intro of the book. And I enjoyed that straightforwardness. My only real qualm with the book was the fact that there are a lot of characters, and while we are being told a lot of things about said characters, we aren't really given anything else. We aren't given much of the interpersonal relationships of the characters. We aren't given much of the character development of the characters. At least not to an extent that I would have wanted to have. Like, I'm very much, like, in my fantasy stories especially, I need characters that I like and that I have an emotional attachment to. And that just wasn't the case. However, I do think it's worth, like, for me it was worth the read for the cultural influence. And like, it's not that long a book, so it wasn't like I was making it through thousands and thousands of pages of boring characters. The book didn't need more character development and more character depth to function, so there wasn't more. I feel like I need to preface what is to come. This reading month was a little bit all over the place, and I think that's a good thing. Yeah, make of that what you will. I read Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. Was that right? Magnolia Parks, Jessa Hastings. I actually read the ebook and then I purchased the physical copy. Make of that what you will. There is a piece of dust on my microphone that's tickling me. Aren't these amazing? By the way, I got a set of them for Christmas from my roommate, and we kind of want to do a podcast about her dating life. I don't have a dating life, but her dating life. We'll see. Back to Magnolia Parks. This is a book that is very often falsely advertised, so let me clear that up. A lot of people market this as a romance. It is not a romance. Sir, what is it not? You're correct, it's not a romance. I would classify it as a drama. I think this is a high society drama, and there is a central love story, that much is true, but that is not the same thing as it being a romance novel. It is a very toxic relationship. All the characters are toxic, which I usually hated. However, I do have to say, in the context of this book, it kind of made sense to me, because in my humble opinion, if you are a private jet type of filthy rich, you can't be a good functioning human being. So in my opinion, that made perfect sense in the context of the story. I'm currently working on a theory. And this theory is that there are books that you should read in small pieces, like 20 pages a day. And the other side of that coin is there are books that you need to read in big chunks. And Magnolia Parks is a book that needs to be read in big chunks, because the thing is, it is kind of ridiculous. It is very unrealistic. It is very annoying at times. And all of these things are very prevalent once you're not completely sucked into the story. So every single time I would pick this up and I'd be like, that's kind of cringe. I don't know about that one. But then the more you read, the less you notice or the less you care. I don't really know. So yeah, the more I read, the less I noticed those flaws of the book. And so I don't think this is a book that would work being read only 20 pages a day. I also think that that is one of the reasons why it's so popular on TikTok, because TikTok loves binge reads. This is a binge read. You should read this in like 2 or 3 days. That is just my opinion on that. My biggest qualm my biggest qualm with the book, however, wasn't how cringy it was, although that's a close second. My biggest qualm was how the non-romantic relationships didn't seem to hold any weight. Like, let me give you an example. Magnolia Parks, the main character, refers to 3 out of the other characters in the cast as her best friend. And they only really were her best friend when it was convenient for the plot. Like, you never saw them talking with each other or hanging out or just not being toxic towards each other. You know what I mean? Like, there never was anything that suggested that they were friends or best friends even, other than the fact that Magnolia called them that. And so if you've read the book, you'll know that there's a lot of focus on her friends and on her best friends, allegedly, and that they're supposed to be very important to the story. And so the fact that, in my opinion, they weren't fleshed out very well just made the whole book not hit as hard as it could have. I do want to say this is Jessa Hastings' debut, so I do expect this to get better with the further novels, but it's still something that I really noticed and that I think you should maybe know getting into the book, because it's a very character-driven book, but the character relationships aren't that fleshed out. And then I read Before the Coffee Gets Cold, another book that has been on my TBR for quite some time, and I really enjoyed this one. And that's kind of it. I really might be a little bit of a stretch. I enjoyed this one. I thought it was fine. I did really enjoy how filled with raw emotion this was. This is a very emotional book. Like, it makes you feel for the characters. It makes these characters in a very short time seem very human to you, which I think is an impressive skill. I didn't say the author's name. Tashikazu Kawaguchi. I think the U is silent in Japanese, but I don't know Japanese. Y'all let me know. Is there a translator? Translated by Geoffrey Truslot. I don't know French either. So there's a lot of humanness in this book, which I really enjoyed. However, one thing that kind of took me out of the story more and more as it went on, the premise is a little bit stupid. Basically, there's this cafe, and if you sit in this cafe in one specific seat and drink a cup of coffee, but only a special kind of coffee, you're transported back to another day to be exactly in that seat again. But you can see everyone that was there on the day you're visiting. It's a long story. It doesn't matter. And you know, the one rule is you have to sit in that seat and you have to drink the coffee before it gets cold. Who would have thought? Now, I was willing to accept this. I was willing to be like, cool, that is some sort of loose magical realism element of the story. Let's move on. However, I didn't get to do that because every single character that was interacting with this cafe, that wanted to travel in the past or that even just heard of the legend or whatever, was like, why can't I only sit in that seat? It's stupid that I have to drink the coffee that soon. I don't even like coffee. How does it work? Why does it work? Why would you even go back to the past? And everyone was so critical about it. There were no explanations. The explanation was just, that's how it is. And in my opinion, if you don't have an explanation, don't point that out to the reader, you know? Like, if you think there is a plot hole in your book, don't point at it. Because, you know, I feel like I would have been totally fine just accepting, okay, that's how we're moving. but I couldn't because no one else could. And if they're all questioning it, I'm going to question it. You know what I mean? Sweet book. Probably not going to read any of the sequels. From what I hear, it's pretty much the exact same thing, just different. So I don't know that I'll need more of it in the future. Next up, I read another Agatha Christie. I read another Miss Marple. I read one of the most famous Miss Marples, I think. I read 4.50 from Paddington. I feel a little bit conflicted on this one. Here's the thing. This book starts with a bang. It's literally the first... It's not a spoiler. It's literally the first chapter. Elspeth McGillicuddy is positive she witnessed a man strangling a woman to death. But it was only the merest glimpse through a carriage window as the trains drew parallel. Which is a cool concept, except then nothing happens for like 150 pages. Like there's a lot of build up and a lot of weird pacing before the book picks up again. And there's a lot of interpersonal drama in this one, which I love. I'm here for murder and interpersonal drama. That is why I love Miss Marple so much. And that is also all set up in the first 100 pages or so. And it was just a lot of setup for things to get going again. And in my opinion, that could have been spaced out a little bit better. It was also the added factor that the murder didn't really seem as central to the story to me. Maybe that's just my personal understanding of it, because I personally didn't really feel attached to the murder. Like, I honestly didn't care that much who done it, because none of the characters cared. The victim didn't have anyone who seemed to care, and therefore I wasn't too invested in who was the killer. I was invested in all of the personal drama, let me tell you that. But in this case, the murder almost seemed only like a catalyst for the personal drama. Like, it seems like you could have switched out the murder for any other generic conflict, and I would have enjoyed the story just as much, because I feel like the things that I actually liked about it, the interpersonal connections, the romance, that would have all still been there. Just whatever conflict happened in the story would have been different. I also, for the first time, this is my 8th Agatha Christie novel, for the first time I guessed who the murderer was, baby. I am basically a private investigator now. If you need a murder investigator, please feel free to leave it down in the comment and I'll see what I can do. I didn't even get the motive right. Like, I thought the motive was something totally different. And I also didn't 100% get the murderer right, but I was very close. Which is already impressive in my opinion, because usually I have no clue. But in this one I kind of did. And I must say I also felt pretty powerful about that, even though I was pretty much wrong about everything else. Overall, an entertaining read. I just had a little bit of a hard time getting through the first half or so. And then I read an audiobook. I got an audiobook subscription again for 2024, and I listened to this audiobook in one day. It was Come Fly the World by Julia Cooke, which is a non-fiction book about the Pan Am stewardesses from like 50s to 70s-ish, I think. They're branching out to other periods in time, but that's generally the main focus. It focuses a lot on Pan Am's role in the Vietnam War and how politically charged the position of a stewardess was, because obviously a woman living alone and traveling around the world and not having a husband and not even wanting a husband, maybe, that was very controversial at the time and very sensationalized at the time. So it was just a very interesting read in my opinion, because this is also a period of time I'm not too familiar with. Like, I don't know a lot about US history, and I don't know a lot about the Vietnam War specifically. So I got to learn some about that as well through this book. And it was just women wanting more. The book actually follows like a couple of actual stewardesses or flight attendants for Pan Am, and we kind of follow their personal stories as well as what was happening around them. And in my opinion, that was a great choice, because it made a lot of these abstract concepts a lot more graspable, like easier to understand. And I also think that because we got to meet these people, it also just humanized the whole thing. It just really brings us closer to this very foreign period. At least it's foreign to me. I didn't realize how different you were when you were a flight attendant back then. And I didn't realize how politically charged of a time that was for flight attendants and women. And in my opinion, it was fantastic in that sense. It was also great escapism. A little detail about me. I kind of always wanted to be a flight attendant. I do, however, get flight sickness. I'm that person, 30 minutes into the air, I'm throwing up into the little paper bag where everyone is honestly like, does that really hold? It does, I promise. So anyway, I'm not becoming a flight attendant in this life, but I'm living vicariously through other people. And in that sense, it was also just good escapism. It takes you to a lot of beautiful places and interesting people around the world. And honestly, for that alone, this was worth a read, in my opinion. And then the last read of January 2024, Much Ado About Nothing by William Shakespeare. I definitely want to get more into classics. Again, this year I didn't really read much of any classics last year, which is usually something I really enjoy reading. And I also want to get my TBR down. And I mean like 5 books at max down, because I'm leaving the country this year. Exciting news, I know. I'm leaving the country in September and I'm not coming back for like a year. So I read this one because I have too much Shakespeare on my TBR. I had to read some of it. And honestly, probably one of my favorite Shakespeares I've read so far. It's not as good as Romeo and Juliet in my opinion, which is still my favorite, which is a basic opinion to have, and I don't care. I mainly enjoyed this book for Beatrice and Benedict, obviously. What else is there to enjoy? I thought the conflict was kind of fun. It was much ado about nothing, like viel Lärm um nichts, but I do think it was kind of fun. There was a lot of very upsetting sexism, honestly. Like, I usually don't feel this upset at sexist depictions in older literature, but in this one there's just one speech by a character right after the main thing of the book happens. There's this long speech about a woman's purity and purity culture, aren't we right? Yeah, so that was a little bit messed up in my opinion, and also unnecessary. So yeah, but Benedict and Beatrice have my whole heart, and I do think they were very funny as well. Like, I definitely laughed out loud a couple of times reading this, which is always great. And that concludes everything I read in January of 2024. I do have a couple of other things to show you though. As I've just told you, yeah, I purchased Magnolia Parks after reading the ebook, but I didn't only purchase Magnolia Parks because that would be boring. I also purchased Daisy Haites. I'm not as big a fan of this cover, but I do think the whole cover series is very beautiful. Like, to me, these are definitely objects of art as well as of literature. I also already started this. I'm about a little over halfway through. I'm enjoying it. Look forward to my February wrap up. I'm so excited to own these, honestly. I don't love the second one, but the cover of the third one, ooh, I'm so excited about these two. They make me so happy, honestly. This next one, it deserves a little bit of an introduction, okay? Last year, it was an era in my reading life, okay? Well, it was a lot. And one of the things about my reading year 2023 you need to know was that at the beginning of the year, inspired by Kayla from Books and Lala, I was like, I'm in my romance era now. And then I read romances and I learned pretty quickly I kind of hate romance books. No. Unfortunately, no. But then something amazing happened, okay? I read Well Met by Jen DeLuca. 5 fucking stars. No apologies. The only 5-star read of 2023. Maybe 2024. Who knows? The only thing that I rated 5 stars. that looking back still deserves it. I think I rated on Goodreads, I rated a couple of things 5 stars, because if I actually gave something a 4.5, I was generous and gave it a 5 on Goodreads. But the only well-deserving one was this one. I can't tell you what about it was. It just made me so happy. You know what doesn't make me happy though? These covers. I don't know what Colleen Reinhardt, what she was thinking. This is deeply upsetting to me. Her dress doesn't look like the dress she's described to wear in the book. I swear to God. I'm spinning. His outfit, I think if Book Simon saw this, he would cry. And rightfully so. So, in my desperation, I was just Googling one day and then I saw Illumicrate. The Illumicrate are doing a collaboration with Jen DeLuca and a couple of artists to create a special edition. So I did what any reasonable human being would do, and I pre-ordered the entire series right then and there. 115 euros, baby, out the window, and I don't regret a single thing. So here they are. I can't show you all of them at once because I only have one hand. I have here the dust jacket for the first one because, as I said, I already filmed this video, so I took it off and then I realized I haven't. This is the dust jacket. This is what it looks like on the back. And then this is what it looks like under the dust jacket. I can't. I am deceased, actually. I do prefer them, honestly, without the dust jacket. But I do want to display them somehow, and I haven't really found a proper way. And as long as I only have them like spines out in my bookcase, I don't really care too much. So yeah, for now they also have the dust jacket on, but I think I'll switch that up. This is the second one. It's probably my least favorite in the series, but I still really liked it. This is the third one. So cute. I really enjoyed the third one. It's very sweet. And then the fourth one, which other than the first one, this is definitely my favorite. This is probably the closest I've gotten to a 5-star last year, other than Well Met. I'm obsessed. That is everything. Thank you all so much for watching. I am excited to hear what you think of my reading. I'm excited to hear of your reading. What did you really enjoy this month? What was your favorite book? Did you purchase anything exciting? Let me know in the comments. Give me a like if you feel inclined to do so. Maybe return for the next video by subscribing, ringing the bell, who knows? I'll see you all. Bye!